Hi guys, welcome to my next MondAI BAIgel episode. My guest today is Jaromir Savelka. Jaromir is a researcher at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. He's a lawyer and data scientist. He is a PhD in intelligent systems and long-standing member of International Association of Artificial Intelligence and Law and long-standing editor of AI and Law Journal. Jaromir, it's great you could join me.
Thank you, Michal. I'm very happy to be here.
You're one of the contributors of our first global report on the state of artificial intelligence in legal practice. You commented our survey, and first of all, I would like to ask you what results from the survey and from the report you find most interesting and maybe most surprising.
Yes, so I think I commented that, for example, what I found really surprising is that that it seems like different types of law firms and different type of groups express relatively similar needs in terms of what kind of AI tools they need, which is really unexpected to me because I have, for example, quite an experience with a group that was dealing with e-discovery. And the tools based on AI that they were using in that group were very specialized for that particular domain. So I find it relatively surprising that we wouldn't see a little bit more of heterogeneity in those expressed needs, right? So, for example, if you take I don't know, like something that may seem like pretty close use cases, maybe like e-discovery, and on the other hand, something like contract review. Even those are vastly different, right? So if you look at e-discovery, the volumes of document are very large. Something we can speak. Sometimes we can speak like millions of documents, and so there you need a kind of technology that can deal with a document relatively cheaply, right? So you probably want to keep a cost, definitely under $1 per document or something like that. On the other hand, if you look at contract reviews, the volumes may be still pretty large, but we are definitely dealing with much smaller data sets. And there you can, for example, afford to pay a couple of tens of dollars per document or something like that if you need. So I'm definitely very surprised that we have not seen a little bit more of that diversity there.
And what do you think about the number? Because over half of surveyed law firms answered that they are already using
Mhm.
AI. What do you think about it? Was it a hype of first half of 2023
Mhm.
or reality?
I mean, I think you may be right on this. I think this, at least that's my it's my hypothesis that this could be the function of the time where the survey was done. I think, for example, if the survey was done, let's say, half a year earlier, I would imagine that we would get quite a different answer. I think at that time where we were doing it, I mean, there was quite a big hype, and I think everybody was very eager to say that they are already using AI. And so I think that we might have seen, firms that maybe experiment a little bit with a tool such as ChatGPT or something like that, and they will already self-report that they are using AI. But that number will not go down, right? So, for example, we know that Microsoft is now integrating their Copilot in all those tools. So, I mean, we can probably expect that that number will be close to 100% soon. Not over half.
You probably know that we prepared the second edition of our report. We should probably ask law firms which way or how often they use AI or which type of tools more
Mhm.
specifically, if it's just a copilot or chat GPT or more advanced tools. What do you think?
That makes a lot of sense because I think that's what you would be really interested in. If they are using maybe some specialized tools coming from some legal tech companies, especially for some specific domains such as, I don't know, as I already said, e-discovery, contract review, or if those are like those more general tools. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting that you started with that report at the point where it was still like a very meaningful question whether you use AI. And now we are less than a year from that, and it seems like that question doesn't make too much sense anymore.
You stressed a few times in your comment that the law firms do not notice opportunities to collaborate with AI supported tools, collaborate between teams or with their clients.
Mhm.
What do you think about it?
I had a very specific thing in mind when I was commenting on that, because there was this specific category, whether they envision to use that for like collaboration with maybe other teams or their clients. And if you think about it, like right now there is a lot of tools that can support you, just maybe through a meeting such as the one that we have right now, right? So you have these transcription tools, they can summarize a meeting, they can track agenda, there could even be bots that just like join the meeting and make sure that certain things happen during that meeting. So I'm really surprised, because to me that seems like something that that law firms could potentially leverage to make their collaboration very efficient. And I guess that's possible that maybe they just did not see this under that question or something like that, because I am pretty sure that these tools will be used very, very soon within the law firms, if not already today.
This was one question that they don't see this, let's say, simple opportunities. A few weeks ago, I discussed with Enrico Francesconi his thoughts about the report, and he said that law firms do not see the full potential of AI because they see its use only in repetitive, simple tasks, and they don't see opportunity to use it in more complicated, sophisticated cases. What do you think about this idea of Enrico?
Yeah, I would probably agree with Enrico on that, and I don't think it's only necessary like the simple repetitive cases versus more complex cases. But I feel like very often they would look at the tools such as generative AI, where the potential is really great. And I think very often this tool would be perceived as something that is good at generating documents. And I don't think that it's necessarily understood that that is an extremely flexible technology that can do quite a lot for you, right? For example, it can also do classification of documents, and and we do see tools that are focusing on that. But I don't think that law firms are necessarily aware of that. So that it's not only for like drafting documents, but it can be used for much more. And I think you would see this with many other types of AI, where they would kind of see that particular use that certain tool imposes, and they would not really realize that the technology is very flexible. But it also needs to be said that there are some law firms, very often those that are very, very big, that can afford to have a proper talent, that are also very actively exploring the space and even developing their new solutions, if this is something that they can afford. So this cannot be completely generalized, but I would say, like, when you would think about that average law firm, it's probably true that there is a lot of opportunities that they don't even think about yet.
What was surprising for me from the report was the result that not only biggest law firms, over 100 or
Mhm.
1000 lawyers that have resources, for sure, resources and focus on AI,
Mhm.
but also the smallest law firms are really enthusiastic about AI. Why is it so?
So honestly, this was not too surprising to me. This would be really surprising to me if I would hear something like that about a year ago. But to me, that's one of the greatest thing about the recent generative AI revolution, if we can call it that way, because prior to that, it was relatively difficult to use AI for firms that couldn't really afford technical talent, right? So, for example, if you wanted to perform simple document classification, you really needed to have a person on your team that could do programming. You also needed to have a person that kind of understood how to carry out that whole project, who would help you to put together data set, label documents, training the machine learning program, right? And suddenly we now have this technology where all you really need to do is you need to be able to prompt the system, which basically means to give it an instructions of how documents need to be classified, and then you just need to inspect the output and see whether it's working the way you expect, or if it's not working the way you expect. So suddenly it's like you no longer need this kind of technical expertise, and as a lawyer you are very good, well prepared to give the instructions and evaluate the quality of the output. So that's to me is like one of the most exciting thing about what's happening now, that you no longer need to have these dedicated people that would just be focused on the machine learning technology, or operating AI, but you can do it directly as a legal expert, and that's, I think, why we see also smaller law firms express this enthusiasm.
My concern is about the law firms between 10 and 100. Why are they not so open toward AI? I'm the partner of the law firm that now employs 90 people. We are very
Mhm.
open toward technology, but I wonder why other law firms 10 to 100 are not so really open. Maybe they feel comfortable where they are, or I don't know why. Maybe not enough resources for them.
I mean, that's a possibility. I don't necessarily see like in terms of this particular aspect why there should be a difference between like a really small law firms and really big law firms and those that kind of sit in the middle. But of course, there are like many potential concerns that you can have around this technology, right? So, for example, when it comes to large language models, I know that there is a lot of lawyers that are scared that if you submit data to an LLM, it will learn that data, and then if somebody else asks some clever question to the LLM, it will leak the data and stuff like that. It's really difficult to to kind of educate those people that this is not really how it works, and that the company operating the LLM would have to purposefully would want to purposefully do that if something like that would happen. But I think it's also by nature of lawyers that they would simply be like conservative. They would be very protective of their client data and so on. So maybe that could also be one of the reasons why they are relatively averse to that technology. I mean, I also have to say that, like for me as like AI and law enthusiast, like I always I'm always excited to see like a new application of AI somewhere, and just the fact that it works is like beautiful for me. But when you are working in the context of law firm, you need a little bit more than that, right? So that you have a beautiful use case for AI, that's one thing, but the other thing is like, can you really meaningfully use it so that it really improves the quality of the work or the quantity of the work? Is it something that you can meaningfully sell to the client so that it actually helps them, but it also helps you to make some additional profits? So there are other considerations. It's not necessarily only the fact that the technology works well, but yeah, quite a bit around that as well.
One last question linked with the report. What do you think? What are your predictions about the technology and tools used
Mhm.
by lawyers in the future? Maybe nearest or in a
Mhm.
few years?
Yeah, so I don't think I'm in a position to really predict where the AI technology itself will develop. Like I remember that when GPT-4 release was imminent, I was very strongly convinced that there is no way it will be much better than GPT 3.5, and I was completely wrong. But I mean, there are several things that we can definitely anticipate, right? So, for example, I think we will definitely see an integration of AI into our everyday tools, right? We already do see that. We do see that applications that we use, such as let's say office document processing applications or the communication tools. There will be a lot of AI capabilities in them, and I also think that we will not no longer necessarily um, sort of perceive them as AI. We will just perceive them as some standard functionality. So I do envision that when, for example, lawyers are drafting a document, they will interact with some LLM to kind of get some pieces of the document in place, and then maybe edit those. When it comes to that larger technology, so currently we do see this we do see this situation where the closed models that are accessible through API are just so much stronger than the open source models that you could download and maybe run on your own infrastructure. So I'm hoping that very soon we will see that this gap will be closing a little bit, and at least a larger law firms will be able to kind of have their own AI and experiment with that, and perhaps like maybe lead the way in that direction as well. So those are some things that I think are definitely coming in near future.
Jaromir, thank you for your ideas for this discussion. It was great. It was really interesting, and I hope our guests enjoy our podcast. So thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure.